And they're discussing, of course, explaining the ETIMS requirement for non-VAT registered taxpayers. Let's listen in.
Continues with Hakamba Wangwe, the KRA Chief Manager for Electronic Tax Invoice Management System, ETIMS. The requirement for ETIMS now extends to even those who are not registered for VAT. And now this goes into small businesses and individuals running small businesses. Those that are registered as a business name, those are registered as small businesses, those are not even registered. Everybody who's basically trading and will need to file with KRA at some point will need to connect to ETIMS. Am I right?
Correct.
Even individuals.
Eric, I think maybe to just put it in perspective,
Yes.
Even individuals have been registered for VAT and are already transmitting invoices to KRA. But when you look at what the law says, is that in fact this month of January is where there was a bit of worry for most of the taxpayers, because what we said is that effective 1st January, all taxable expenditure or expenditure that needs to be accounted for in taxes must be supported with an electronic tax invoice. Now, we're looking at a situation where businesses are doing business with other businesses, issuing each other invoices, and anytime you're doing that, the other person, we are saying, needs an electronic tax invoice. So it so happens that in this conversation, the conversation about Mama Mboga has come in, and it was nice to know that the Mama Mboga actually, in fact, the biggest feedback we received was from the manufacturing entities, the retail outlets, saying that people who supply to them are too small. But then we were also happy to see that the smallest of our taxpayers are actually facing up. They're actually supporting major industry in this country. So what we needed, because now us knowing that they have an impact on what their revenue declaration is or their tax declarations are, we thought it's an important sector to actually pay attention to, identify what their challenge is, because we definitely need to know more about this impact that actually they have on the major industry, but then also identify what challenges they might be having in them being able to comply. Now, I've talked about ETIMS and the solutions that we have in ETIMS. From the feedback, once again, that we've gotten from these industries saying the entities that supply them are too small, they are not able to maintain records of transactions. If we can simplify the process better, yes, we listened, we had, and we worked through December, through the holidays, 25th, 24th, worked through the holidays to make sure that we have stepped into, once again, a lower level solution that would be fit for even smaller taxpayers. And as we speak right now, we have the first of these solutions actually already hosted on the eCitizen platform, more simplified than ETIMS. See, for ETIMS, I think maybe most of the concerns were the process of getting on board ETIMS, the whole registration sign-up, which is necessary so that we can be able to identify the person who is doing business, entering the product, stock management, that businesses with technical know-how are okay with, but the smaller taxpayers might have challenges with. So we now have even, we've stepped down a level further so that we have an even more simplified solution for these smaller taxpayers, reducing the loop that we had for the other solutions for taxpayers to come on board, and just make sure that should this taxpayer now, for example, make their supplies to a certain exporter, for example, the avocados, we've heard a lot about avocados and tomatoes, they're actually able to just generate an invoice, support that supply, and enable this person also to support their purchases with an electronic tax invoice.
So let me first of all just clarify, and then I'll tell you a big problem that I have here. So what we are saying is small businesses like the Mama Mbogas, like Ndu's Duka kiosk that sells shoe polish, mukate, ngumu, soda, juice ya Pacto, Core, Tropical, KSL, those ones, all of those need to have the ETIMS.
Yes, but again, I'm still going to come back to what we require right now. Well, right now, the ones facing off with other business entities. So if Ndu's shop is also making a supply to maybe the next primary school, they're the ones who also supply milk there.
Yes.
Then Ndu, at this point, 1st January, also needs to onboard ETIMS.
Very good.
Yeah.
Because that's what Ndu does.
Yeah.
You see, she supplies to a primary school there.
Yeah.
Supplies, also has another biashara that supplies beans to the next primary school and such, and so on and so forth. You're supplying somebody, and that person, for their own tax purposes, they require you to give them
an invoice,
an ETIMS invoice. Okay? Now, KRA rolled this program since last year, and then you received feedback, and you're like, oh my God, you mean you supermarkets are actually supplied by small people? Where have you been, KRA? As you telling me that KRA did not know that small businesses supply bigger businesses that supply even bigger businesses. Are you saying that KRA was not aware that this is how business works in this country?
No, KRA.
Or even where?
Yeah.
So when you are rolling out this program, why did you start with the end? Because the impact of what you are telling the big supplier, the big supermarket to do is you're saying you are not going to come and tell me that these are your costs if you don't support them with electronic tax invoices. You're basically telling that person that you're not going to accept to be supplied to by a small business that has been supporting you. You knew that. You knew the impact of that. And yet you rolled out this program, and now you're telling us you worked over 24th, 25th to realize that you had to work this and to come up with a solution, which you still don't know whether it will work well for that small business. Where does government operate on live trials? Because this appears to be like a live trial.
You know, when we were rolling out teams, I think that's the feedback we received. We are doing a live trial, and guess what? We managed to actually complete the rollout.
The live trial worked.
Yes, that live trial worked. What we are really saying is that what we are introducing is not something that is in existence already. It's already there, because this small taxpayer we are talking about, because it's easier to focus on. In fact, the time when we started the rollout, I received a lot of SMSs. What about the mamamboga with 3 avocados, a crate of tomatoes? So this small taxpayer who is already supplying to these retail outlets is already giving them a receipt. Aren't they giving them receipts already as we speak? Are they giving them receipts?
They are giving them
They are
receipts.
giving them receipts. So
Yes.
when we say that now we need to formalize these receipts so that they are visible, and the most important thing is providing visibility to the Revenue Authority, because what happens when you look at those small transactions to the retail outlets, to the supermarkets, to the manufacturing entities, they do add up. And the manufacturing entities, when they're doing their income tax return, they will declare these small transactions. When we have gaps as a country or as a revenue administration, so that we can really not ascertain what the tax liability of a person is because of the gaps that are there, what is the solution to this?
So this is for KRA then?
So just starting from the point of visibility of transactions, of course it is for KRA. And just to bring us closer home, I think when you look at such an implementation, it's not out of the blue so that we say it's a trial. Let me tell you, the neighboring countries, and we count all of them around us, minus one, all of them have implemented this system from 2012. So
Okay.
Kenya as a country actually had remained behind.
So you even had someone to benchmark with.
We have.
And yet you had to work 24th and 25th.
So just to mention
It tells
also,
me you didn't benchmark.
so 24th and 25th, the solution we have, none of the East African countries has. So we have a different solution. So what they have, they don't have what we did for the month of December. So
You know, the issue I'm raising, and sorry just to harp on this hard like this, is you started by saying as you interact with your taxpayer, with the taxpayer who is your key stakeholder, you realize that there are various areas of challenges. One of the key challenges is the cost of compliance. Cost of compliance comes in many ways: in time, in actual costs, in technology, in knowledge and skill. So you have to hire somebody who actually understands this thing so they can log on to your iTax for you, because you have no clue what this is. right? And this is what we've seen over time. So starting from the premise of cost of compliance includes lack of skill and knowledge, and also includes lack of time and access to some of these services. Shouldn't you have started from the other way around by saying, how do we reach out to all businesses, small businesses, understanding the hustler business, the mama mboga, huyu jamaa anauza mapapai hapa na miwa hapa kwa all those, and then interact with them and see, so how do you do your business? You do a receipt. If I wanted to get access to that receipt, what's the best way for me to get access to that receipt? Would it be for me to tell you, get a smartphone? From that smartphone, I am now going to tell you to download an app. From that app, I'm going to be requiring you to load data. From that, then I'm going to teach you how to be getting a code so that you can access your iTax.
Still coming back to that, I think the mistake we are making is underestimating our taxpayers. When it comes to tax administration is when we say our taxpayers are technologically challenged. But the truth is, on the ground, every day, especially since COVID, most of our taxpayers have actually, for their own use, have adopted technology in one way or the other. And that's why when you go to banks right now, you don't find the queues you used to find those days when you need to go to the bank and make a withdrawal. You know, it's a whole day process because you all have to be there. What happened? The ATMs came along. Yep. They can have their mobile banking on their phones. And they have done this.
Yes.
They have done, but in other aspects, it is okay. They are able to adopt this technology. But when it comes to tax, you're like, oh, no, maybe they can't generate a receipt.
No, there's capacity building. There's capacity building. When you roll out a new app, like now we are talking about the Maramoja taxi app. We talk about this is how you download it. It's a blue one. This is how you register. You shall go through this and the other. We don't say from tomorrow you're not going to be able to move from A to B if you don't have the app.
So no, what happened?
KRA operates from the other side. From the 1st of January, if you don't have an ETA, if you don't have an ETA...
Because this is another thing. So you can imagine other small... And I want to ask how this would work, because it is one concern that has been raised. So small businesses who would ordinarily invoice another business, we are saying that today, you cannot then invoice without having been on ETIMS, because the receiving organization will not accept an invoice that is not ETIMS compliant. Is that what we're saying as well?
No. Okay, so now let me just start back. We don't just start like we just wake up and say KRA. We are saying from January. The law came in place in June. June. And what happens as our obligation as taxpayers, as the legislative changes are being done, you are aware, how is it affecting me? By June, I knew housing levy is going to affect me. And it did. So by June, by the time the finance bill is being read, you already actually know where the changes are going to be. And then now we started pacing ourselves from September. We said taxpayers to start onboarding. Unfortunately, they did not, because the real noise, and I think this is what is happening, started in December. So when we did the stakeholder engagement, yes, we did. We have done a lot of stakeholder engagement and still intend to do more and build capacity and do the training, taxpayer education, to make sure that we're able to reach as many of these taxpayers as possible and address whatever challenges that they are having. We also realized that our taxpayers are also not ready. And that's why I think in December, we had a public notice out towards the end of December before New Year. We said, okay, we will allow you to continue onboarding till end of March. The law has not changed. Maybe something to note. The law is still effective 1st January. So if you find yourself in a cycle where you already are deep in these transactions, the best thing to do is onboard now, so that you don't have a backlog of invoices that come March, now you have to start still inputting in the system, because we have said they still have to be transmitted through the system. It's just that we'll give you some bit of concession till March, so that you make changes in your system. We try to do as much stakeholder engagement as possible, build capacity as possible, but come March, whichever transactions you'll have transacted outside the system must be visible in the system, because these people you are doing business with must still support their transactions with an electronic tax invoice. So the taxman is also understanding, as much as it does look like we've not done our groundwork, but even extending, like saying that we are giving the concession up to March. It's because of the feedback on the ground. And we come back and you're like, it's not realistic for 1st January. We need to support business continuity. We need to have food on our tables because I think the farming sector is actually supporting us a lot. But we also need to find ways of still having visibility of these transactions, whichever way the objective it needs to be achieved for better revenue administration.
You know, the efforts that KRA makes are actually very visible. KRA has done tremendous work in making themselves user-friendly to the citizen. Those efforts are lauded, they are good, and one sees them. But please remember where we are coming from. KRA as carry, okay? We are coming from an era when it was income tax, okay? And when you got a letter, you didn't open it first. You took a walk, made a cup of tea, opened it, and then opened it slowly to read it. Now, all that has actually changed tremendously. But I'm saying, when I say, remember where we are coming from, issues of tax are not things that people receive with joy and jubilation. You don't go and celebrate that you've paid taxes. You grit your teeth when you pay taxes, okay? So the effort that KRA makes, wonderful as it is, let me urge you, it is asking you to do something fairly inhuman, but it must always continue. At some point, you always get more and more disciples. People get to feel, actually, look, we can talk to KRA, we can have a chat, we can do this, and they can open doors. Now, on this matter, let me change the conversation just slightly. There's a portal, we're electronic, we're 21st century, we're communication age and all that. How useful is it? You know, I've been sitting here trying to figure out how this thing works on my phone. Hey.
Actually, let's go through it, all right?
Yes.
If you are one of those small businesses operating a small business and they want to onboard onto ETIMS today, what do they do?
They need to, for them to onboard onto ETIMS, they need to, first of all, for any technology, you need to sign up. There's no way you'll just go and find an off-the-shelf solution that you just generate an invoice. You don't know where the invoice is coming from. So you need to sign up. You need to identify yourself. So the signing up is there, yes. You need to say, on the ETIMS portal. If you go, for example, to Google, just type ETIMS portal, it will take you to the sign-up page.
ETIMS.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you Google